Northeast. "15 minutes remaining in the session. Andrew Ferguson from Australia is first. Jeff Drum from New Zealand is P10. Derek Weisler in Rahal Strait is 6th. Richard King from Italy is 14th. Fabian Fitness from New Zealand is 14th. Derek Weisler is 8th. Andrew Ferguson in the corkscrew is 2nd. Andrew Ferguson improved his first with a 131.143. Tyler Magson is P12. Lee Crowther is provisional pole with a 1:30.711. Derek Weisler in Andretti hairpin is P5. Andrew Ferguson in turn 5 is third up 0.32. Fabian Fitness in Rahal Straight is fourth up 0.55. Best lap is a 1:31.532. 0.821 off pole. Fabian Fitness improved his P2 with a 1:30.997. 0.286 off pole. Lee Crowther is provisional pole with a 1:30.593. Dean Hanley is P6. Dean Hanley improved his 6th with a 1:31.323. 0.730 off pole. 10 minutes remaining in the session. Will Kirk is P9. Will Kirk improved his P7 with a 1:31.502. 0.909 off pole. Hayden Cook from New Zealand in Rainy Curve is 13th up 9.25. Hayden Cook improved his P10 with a 1:34.357. 3.764 off pole. Fabian Fitness from New Zealand in turn 10 is third up 0.17. Andrew Ferguson in turn 11 is fourth. Fabian Fitness is P3. Fabian Fitness improved his P2 with a 1:30.793. 0.200 off pole. Luke McCulloch from Australia in turn 11 is 13th. Luke McCulloch improved his 10th with a 1:34.224. 3.631 off pole. Hayden Cook in Rahal Straight is P11 up 0.11. Remo Grant from New Zealand in Andretti hairpin is P10. Luke Geeson in Andretti hairpin is P9. Remo Grant in turn 5 is 10th up 0.29. Jason McFadden from New Zealand in Andretti hairpin is 8th. Best lap is a 1:32.357. 1.764 off pole. Hayden Cook is 14th up 0.22. Hayden Cook is up 0.06 in Rahal Strait. Jason McFadden is 8th up 0.10. Jason McFadden is up 0.46 in Rainy Curve. Jason McFadden improved his P8 with a 131.564. 0.971 off pole. Andrew Ferguson in turn 11 is 5th. Andrew Ferguson improved his 2nd with a 130.725. 0.132 off pole. Luke Geeson in Rainy Curve is 10th up 0.51. Luke Geeson improved his P9 with a 132.821. 2.228 off pole. 5 minutes remaining in the session. Andrew Ferguson is P2. Andrew Ferguson is up 0.14 in Rahal Strait. Fabian Fitness is 3rd up 0.11 on softs. Hayden Cook in turn 3 is P14 up 0.19. Hayden Cook is up 0.69 in turn 6. Hayden Cook is up 1.06 in Rainy Curve. Derek Weisler is P5 up 0.12. Hayden Cook in turn 11 is 14th. Hayden Cook improved his 12th with a 133.165. 2.572 off pole. Remo Grand is P11 up 0.26. Remo Grand is up 0.35 in Rainy Curve. Richard King is 17th. Richard King improved his P17 with a 135.769. 5.176 off pole. Hayden Cook is P12 up 0.11. Jeff Drum in turn 11 is P16. Jeff Drum improved is P15 with a 134.252. 3.659 off pole. Bill Cosmo from Australia in turn 10 is P13 up 0.44 on softs. Fabian Fitness in rainy curve is P3 up 0.54. Fabian Fitness is provisional pole with a 130.315. Richard King is P17 up 1.37. Richard King improved is P14 with a 134.130. 3.815 off pole. Andrew Ferguson is third up 0.14. Will Kirk from New Zealand in the corkscrew is P8 up 0.41 on softs. The qualifying session is now in overtime. Will Kirk improved his P6 with a 131.255. 0.940 off pole. Brody Barber from Italy in turn 10 is 9th up 0.11 on softs. Luke Geeson in the corkscrew is P10 up 0.23. Luke Geeson improved his 10th with a 132.400. 2.085 off pole. Mark C from Australia in the corkscrew is 18th up 3.06 on mediums. Mark C improved his P18 with a 135.283. 4.968 off pole. Announcer bot is active. The race session is at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in Monterey, USA. The wind speed is 5 km/h from the north-northeast. Lee Crowther is first. Andrew Ferguson from Australia is P2 on hards. Lachlan Grant from Australia is third on hards. Derek Weisler is fourth on softs. Will Kirk from New Zealand is fifth on mediums. Jason McFadden from New Zealand is sixth on mediums. Dean Hanley from Australia is P7 on hards. Brody Barber from Italy is P8 on hards. Luke Geeson is 10th on mediums. Remo Grant from New Zealand is 11th on mediums. Hayden Cook from New Zealand is 12th on hards. Bill Cosmo from Australia is 13th on softs. Richard King from Italy is P14 on mediums. 20 minutes remaining in the session. Race start. Fabian Fitness is P1. Lee Crowther from Australia in Andretti hairpin is P2 on hards. Andrew Ferguson in turn 3 is third. Derek Weisler is fourth. Remo Grant in turn 6 is P9. Hayden Cook in the corkscrew is P11. Bill Cosmo is P13. Luke McCulloch from Australia is P13 on hards. Jeff Drum from New Zealand in Andretti hairpin is 14th on softs, 0.1 ahead of Tyler Magson. Tyler Magson from Italy in turn 3 is 15th on hards. Best lap is a 151.668. 10.525 off the fastest lap. Richard King in turn 5 is 16th, 0.3 behind Tyler Magson. Will Kirk in the corkscrew on lap 2 is P5 on hards, 0.3 behind Lachlan Grant. Jason McFadden in turn 10 is P5, 0.4 behind Will Kirk. Bill Cosmo in turn 11 is 12, 0.4 behind Remo Grant. Andrew Ferguson is third, 0.4 behind Lee Crowther. Jason McFadden in turn 4 is P5. Best lap is a 1:32.338. 0.263 off the fastest lap. Derek Weisler in turn 5 is P7, 0.3 behind Lachlan Grant. Bill Cosmo in turn 6 is 12, 0.3 behind Remo Grant. Luke Geeson in the corkscrew on lap 3 is 14th, 0.5 behind Richard King. Luke McCulloch from Australia in Rainy Curve is P16, 0.4 behind Mark C. "15 minutes remaining in the session. Luke McCulloch passed Mark C for P15. Mark C from Australia on lap 3 is 16th on mediums, 0.3 behind Luke McCulloch. Lee Crowther is P2, 0.4 behind Fabian Fitness. Lachlan Grant is P5, 0.4 behind Jason McFadden. Will Kirk in the corkscrew on lap 4 is P7, 0.4 behind Derek Weisler. Derek Weisler was 1.5 faster last lap. Lee Crowther is P2, 0.4 behind Fabian Fitness. Will Kirk in Andretti hairpin is 7th, 0.5 behind Derek Weisler. Lee Crowther is second on hards, 0.3 behind Fabian Fitness. Andrew Ferguson is third on hards, 0.4 behind Lee Crowther. Lee Crowther in the corkscrew is P3. Andrew Ferguson in turn 11 is P3 battling Lee Crowther. Remo Grant from New Zealand in turn 11 is 11th, 0.5 behind Hayden Cook. Luke Geeson entering the pits is P13. Luke Geeson is 13th, 0.9 ahead of Luke McCulloch. Luke McCulloch is 13th, 1.4 ahead of Richard King. Luke Geeson exiting pits on hards. Remo Grande is P11 on mediums, 0.5 behind Hayden Cook. Derek Weisler in the corkscrew is P6, 0.5 behind Lachlan Grant. Remo Grande is P11, 0.3 behind Hayden Cook. Andrew Ferguson is third, 0.4 behind Lee Crowther. Hayden Cook from New Zealand is 11th, 0.1 behind Remo Grande. Andrew Ferguson is third on hards, 0.3 behind Lee Crowther. 10 minutes remaining in the session. Hayden Cook is 11th, 0.5 behind Remo Grande. Remo Grande was 0.8 faster last lap. Lee Crowther in the corkscrew is P3, 0.2 behind Andrew Ferguson. Will Kirk in turn 10 is 7, 0.3 behind Derek Weisler. Hayden Cook on lap 7 is 11th, 0.6 behind Remo Grande. Will Kirk in turn 4 on lap 8 is P7, 0.2 behind Derek Weisler. Hayden Cook in turn 4 is 11th, 0.4 behind Remo Grande. Will Kirk in Rahal Straight is P7, 0.2 behind Derek Weisler. Will Kirk passed Derek Weisler for 6th. Derek Weisler in turn 10 is P7, 0.3 behind Will Kirk. Hayden Cook in turn 10 is P11, 0.5 behind Remo Grande. Lachlan Grant is 5th, 0.6 behind Jason McFadden. Hayden Cook in turn 4 is 11th, 0.3 behind Remo Grande. Lachlan Grant in the corkscrew is P5, 0.5 behind Jason McFadden. Derek Weisler in turn 10 is P7, 0.4 behind Will Kirk. Hayden Cook is P11, 0.2 behind Remo Grant. Hayden Cook was 0.5 faster last lap. Jason McFadden is 5th, 0.2 behind Lachlan Grant. Hayden Cook in Andretti hairpin is P11, 0.4 behind Remo Grant. Jason McFadden is 5th, 0.4 behind Lachlan Grant. Lachlan Grant was 0.8 faster last lap. 5 minutes remaining in the session. Derek Weisler in Rahal Straight is 7th, 0.5 behind Will Kirk. Hayden Cook in Rahal Straight is P11, 0.1 behind Remo Grant. Luke Geeson is 17th on hards, 0.4 behind Tyler Magson. Luke Geeson passed Tyler Magson for 16th. Lee Crowther on lap 11 is 3rd, 0.4 behind Andrew Ferguson. Derek Weisler on lap 11 is 7th, 0.3 behind Will Kirk. Hayden Cook in turn 3 is P11, 0.3 behind Remo Grant. Lee Crowther in the corkscrew is P3, 0.4 behind Andrew Ferguson. Remo Grant in turn 6 is 11th, 0.3 behind Hayden Cook. Lee Crowther is P3, 0.4 behind Andrew Ferguson. Lee Crowther was 1.1 faster last lap. Remo Grant in turn 10 on lap 11 is P11, 0.3 behind Hayden Cook. Lee Crowther in turn 5 is P3, 0.5 behind Andrew Ferguson. Remo Grant in turn 3 on lap 12 is 11th, 0.4 behind Hayden Cook. Will Kirk is P7. Bill Cosmo is 12th, 0.5 behind Remo Grande. Bill Cosmo was 1.8 faster last lap. Remo Grande is 12th. Lee Crowther in the corkscrew is P3, 0.7 behind Andrew Ferguson. Remo Grande in turn 5 is P12 on mediums, 0.1 behind Bill Cosmo. The leader has just finished the race. Fabian Fitness from New Zealand finished first. Jeff Drum finished P18. Andrew Ferguson finished P2. Lee Crowther finished P3. Lachlan Grant finished P4. Jason McFadden finished P5. Derek Weisler finished P6. Will Kirk finished 7th. Dean Hanley finished P8. Brody Barber finished P9. Hayden Cook finished P10. Bill Cosmo finished 11th. Remo Grande finished P12. Luke McCulloch finished P13. Richard King finished 14th. Mark C. finished P15. Luke Geeson finished 16th. Tyler Magson finished P17. Announcer bot is active. The race session is at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in Monterey, USA. The wind speed is 8 km/h from the north-northeast. Dean Hanley is P1. Will Kirk from New Zealand is third on mediums. Derek Weisler is P4 on softs. Jason McFadden from New Zealand is P5 on mediums. Lachlan Grant from Australia is 6th on hards. Lee Crowther from Australia is P7 on hards. Andrew Ferguson from Australia is 8th on hards. Fabian Fitness from New Zealand is 9th on mediums. Bill Cosmo from Australia is 11th on softs. Remo Grand from New Zealand is P12 on hards. Richard King from Italy is P13 on mediums. Mark C. from Australia is P14 on mediums. Luke Geeson is P15 on hards. Tyler Magson from Italy is P16 on hards. Jeff Drum from New Zealand is P17 on softs. Hayden Cook from New Zealand is first on mediums. "45 minutes remaining in the session. Race start." Will Kirk is P4. Lachlan Grant in turn 3 is P5. Derek Weisler is 6th. Andrew Ferguson in turn 6 is 7th. Jason McFadden in the corkscrew is P8 on hards. Fabian Fitness in turn 10 is 10th. Tyler Magson in turn 11 is 15th. Will Kirk is second, 0.3 behind Hayden Cook. Brody Barber from Italy is P3 on softs, 0.5 behind Will Kirk. Derek Weisler is P5, 0.3 behind Lachlan Grant. Andrew Ferguson in the corkscrew is P7. Best lap is a 1:45.164. 2.277 off the fastest lap. Jason McFadden in turn 10 is P8, 0.3 behind Andrew Ferguson. Lee Crowther is P9 on hards, 0.4 behind Jason McFadden. Remo Grant is 14th, 0.2 behind Richard King. Lachlan Grant in turn 4 is P3, 0.1 behind Brody Barber. Lachlan Grant was 0.6 faster last lap. Lachlan Grant is now second. Brody Barber in turn 5 is third, battling Hayden Cook. Derek Weisler in Rahal Straight is P4, battling Hayden Cook. Derek Weisler was 1.2 faster last lap. Andrew Ferguson in Rainy Curve is P5, 0.1 ahead of Hayden Cook. Dean Hanley from Australia in turn 11 is P6 on hards, battling Hayden Cook. Dean Hanley lost P6 to Hayden Cook. "40 minutes remaining in the session. Jason McFadden is 9th. Best lap is a 1:34.128. 1.759 off the fastest lap. Jason McFadden passed Fabian Fitness for P8. Fabian Fitness in turn 3 is 9, 0.2 ahead of Lee Crowther. Lee Crowther in turn 5 is 10, 0.2 behind Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness was 0.9 faster last lap. Derek Weisler in Rahal Straight is 4th, 0.3 behind Brody Barber. Dean Hanley in Rainy Curve is P7, 0.3 ahead of Jason McFadden. Fabian Fitness is 9, 0.2 behind Dean Hanley. Lee Crowther on lap 5 is 10th, battling Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness is 10th, 0.2 behind Lee Crowther. Andrew Ferguson in turn 5 is 5th. Best lap is a 1:32.215. 0.189 off the fastest lap. Jason McFadden in turn 6 is P7, 0.4 behind Hayden Cook. Jason McFadden passed Hayden Cook for P6. Andrew Ferguson in Rainy Curve is P5, 0.2 behind Brody Barber. Jason McFadden on lap 5 is P7, 0.1 behind Hayden Cook. Lee Crowther is P8, 0.1 behind Jason McFadden. Fabian Fitness from New Zealand is 9th, 0.4 behind Lee Crowther. Lee Crowther on lap 6 is P7, 0.1 behind Hayden Cook. Fabian Fitness is P8, 0.1 behind Lee Crowther. Fabian Fitness is now P7. Bill Cosmo from Australia in the Corkscrew is 9th on mediums, 0.4 behind Jason McFadden. Jason McFadden was 0.7 faster last lap. Remo Grand in Rainy Curve is P12, 0.2 behind Luke Geeson. Hayden Cook is P7, 0.3 behind Fabian Fitness. Jason McFadden in Andretti Hairpin is P8 on hards, 0.4 behind Hayden Cook. 35 minutes remaining in the session. Remo Grand in turn 3 is 12, 0.3 behind Luke Geeson. Hayden Cook is 8th, 0.1 behind Jason McFadden. Remo Grand in Rahal Straight is 12th, 0.4 behind Luke Geeson. Bill Cosmo from Australia in turn 11 is P9, 0.6 behind Hayden Cook. Remo Grand is 12th on hards, 0.3 behind Luke Geeson. Bill Cosmo is 9th, 0.4 behind Hayden Cook. Dean Hanley in turn 4 is 14th, 0.3 behind Tyler Magson. Andrew Ferguson is P4 on hards, 0.2 behind Derek Weissler. Lee Crowther in rainy curve is P10, 0.3 behind Bill Cosmo. Dean Hanley in rainy curve is 14th, 0.4 behind Tyler Magson. Dean Hanley passed Tyler Magson for P13. Tyler Magson is 14th, 0.2 behind Dean Hanley. Tyler Magson is now 13th. Andrew Ferguson is 4th. Best lap is a 1:31.550. Lee Crowther in turn 5 is 9th, 0.2 behind Hayden Cook. Lee Crowther was 1.4 faster last lap. Lachlan Grant is P2 on hards, 0.5 behind Will Kirk. Lee Crowther from Australia in rainy curve is P9, 0.2 behind Hayden Cook. Brody Barber entering the pits is 5th. Andrew Ferguson is 4th, 0.3 behind Derek Weissler. Hayden Cook from New Zealand is P8, 0.2 behind Lee Crowther. Brody Barber exiting pits on hards. Andrew Ferguson in turn 6 is 4th, 0.6 behind Derek Weissler. 30 minutes remaining in the session. Lachlan Grant in rainy curve is P2. Best lap is a 1:31.802. 0.252 off the fastest lap. Andrew Ferguson is P4 on hards, 0.2 behind Derek Weissler. Lachlan Grant in Andretti hairpin is 2nd, 0.3 behind Will Kirk. Andrew Ferguson in turn 3 is 4th on hards, 0.4 behind Derek Weissler. Fabian Fitness exiting pits on hards. Derek Weissler is 4th, 0.2 behind Andrew Ferguson. Lachlan Grant in Rahal Straight is 2nd, 0.3 behind Will Kirk. Derek Weissler in the corkscrew is 4th, 0.5 behind Andrew Ferguson. Will Kirk is P2 on mediums, 0.3 behind Lachlan Grant. Fabian Fitness in rainy curve is 10th on hards, 0.8 behind Luke Geeson. Will Kirk exiting pits on hards. Lee Crowther is P6, 0.5 behind Will Kirk. Lee Crowther passed Will Kirk for P5. Fabian Fitness in Andretti hairpin is 10th on hards, 0.5 behind Luke Geeson. Fabian Fitness passed Luke Geeson for 9. Dean Hanley is P12, 0.5 behind Brody Barber. Fabian Fitness in turn 6 is P9. Best lap is a 1:31.980. 0.430 off the fastest lap. Fabian Fitness passed Bill Cosmo for 8th. Dean Hanley in the corkscrew is 12. Best lap is a 1:32.832. 1.282 off the fastest lap. Hayden Cook entering the pits is 7th. Hayden Cook is 7th. Luke Geeson entering the pits is 10th. Lee Crowther in Andretti hairpin is 5th, 1.7 ahead of Will Kirk. Dean Hanley in Andretti hairpin is 10th, 0.4 behind Brody Barber. Hayden Cook exiting pits on hards. Luke Geeson exiting pits on mediums. Luke Geeson is 13th on mediums, 0.3 behind Tyler Magson. Dean Hanley from Australia is P10, 0.5 behind Brody Barber. 25 minutes remaining in the session. Brody Barber in the corkscrew is 9th on hards, 0.4 behind Bill Cosmo. Dean Hanley is 10th, 0.3 behind Brody Barber. Brody Barber on lap 13 is 9th, 0.3 behind Bill Cosmo. Bill Cosmo in Andretti hairpin is 9th, 0.1 behind Brody Barber. Mark C entering the pits is 15th. Bill Cosmo lost 9th to Dean Hanley. Will Kirk from New Zealand in turn 5 is 6th on hards, 0.5 behind Lee Crowther. Dean Hanley in turn 5 is P9, 0.5 behind Brody Barber. Mark C exiting pits on hards. Tyler Magson in turn 4 is P13, 0.1 behind Luke Geeson. Tyler Magson passed Luke Geeson for P12. Luke Geeson is 13th, 0.3 behind Tyler Magson. Bill Cosmo entering the pits is P10. Luke Geeson passed Tyler Magson for 12th. Bill Cosmo is P10. Fabian Fitness in Andretti hairpin is P7. Dean Hanley in turn 3 is P9 on hards, 0.3 behind Brody Barber. Bill Cosmo exiting pits on softs. Hayden Cook in Andretti hairpin is 11th on hards, 0.1 behind Bill Cosmo. Bill Cosmo is 11th, 0.1 behind Hayden Cook. Dean Hanley in the corkscrew is 9th. Derek Weisler is P6 on hards, 1.7 behind Will Kirk. Derek Weisler exiting pits on hards. Derek Weisler lost 6th to Fabian Fitness. Dean Hanley is 9th, 0.1 behind Brody Barber. Will Kirk in turn 5 is P5, 0.5 behind Lee Crowther. Jeff Drum entering the pits is P15. Dean Hanley from Australia in turn 5 is P9, 0.3 behind Brody Barber. Will Kirk in Rainy Curve is P5, 0.5 behind Lee Crowther. 20 minutes remaining in the session. Jeff Drum exiting pits on hards. Dean Hanley from Australia is P9, 0.5 behind Brody Barber. Will Kirk in turn 4 is 5th, 0.7 behind Lee Crowther. Dean Hanley in turn 4 is 9th, 0.5 behind Brody Barber. Brody Barber was 0.5 faster last lap. Will Kirk in the corkscrew on lap 17 is 5th, 0.5 behind Lee Crowther. Dean Hanley in Rahal Straight is P9, 0.5 behind Brody Barber. Will Kirk is 5th, 0.5 behind Lee Crowther. Dean Hanley in Andretti hairpin on lap 18 is 9th, 0.8 behind Brody Barber. Will Kirk is 5th, 0.3 behind Lee Crowther. Dean Hanley in turn 5 is 9, 0.5 behind Brody Barber. Richard King entering the pits is 14th. Luke Geeson in turn 5 is 12, 1.0 behind Bill Cosmo. Richard King exiting pits on softs. Dean Hanley is P9, 0.4 behind Brody Barber. Richard King in turn 3 is P14 on softs. Dean Hanley exiting pits on mediums. Tyler Magson exiting pits on hards. Will Kirk from New Zealand in Rahal Straight is 5th, 0.8 behind Lee Crowther. Lee Crowther was 0.6 faster last lap. Tyler Magson exiting pits on hards. Lee Crowther entering the pits is P4. Lee Crowther is P4. Tyler Magson in Andretti hairpin is P13. "15 minutes remaining in the session. Lee Crowther exiting pits on softs. Fabian Fitness in turn 4 is P5 on hards, 0.7 behind Will Kirk. Derek Weisler in Rahal Straight is P6, 5.0 behind Fabian Fitness. Jason McFadden entering the pits is 3rd. Jason McFadden is P3. Lachlan Grant in turn 3 is 1st, 2.2 ahead of Andrew Ferguson. Jason McFadden exiting pits on softs. Fabian Fitness in Andretti hairpin is 4th, 0.4 behind Will Kirk. Bill Cosmo is P11 on softs. Lachlan Grant entering the pits is 1st. Andrew Ferguson entering the pits is 2nd. Andrew Ferguson is second. Fabian Fitness in Rainy Curve is P4. Best lap is a 1:31.581. 0.031 off the fastest lap. Lachlan Grant exiting pits on mediums. Andrew Ferguson is P2 on softs. Andrew Ferguson exiting pits on softs. Andrew Ferguson lost P3 to Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness is third. Dean Hanley is P9 on mediums, 4.4 ahead of Hayden Cook. Fabian Fitness in Rainy Curve is third. Will Kirk in Andretti Hairpin is second, 0.6 ahead of Fabian Fitness. Ten minutes remaining in the session. Fabian Fitness in turn 5 is P3. Andrew Ferguson is fourth, 1.5 behind Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness was 2.6 faster last lap. Fabian Fitness in turn 11 is third. Andrew Ferguson in turn 3 is P4, 0.8 behind Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness from New Zealand in turn 5 is third, 0.5 ahead of Andrew Ferguson. Andrew Ferguson in Rahal Straight is P4. Fabian Fitness in Rainy Curve is third, 0.2 ahead of Andrew Ferguson. Andrew Ferguson in turn 11 is P4 on softs, 0.5 behind Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness in Andretti hairpin is P3 on hards, 0.3 ahead of Andrew Ferguson. Andrew Ferguson from Australia in turn 3 is P4, 0.3 behind Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness in turn 5 is third. Andrew Ferguson in Rahal Straight is fourth, 0.5 behind Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness in Rainy Curve is third, 0.2 ahead of Andrew Ferguson. Andrew Ferguson in turn 11 is P4, 0.3 behind Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness is P3. Andrew Ferguson in turn 3 is fourth, 0.4 behind Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness is third on hards, 0.2 ahead of Andrew Ferguson. Andrew Ferguson in turn 6 is fourth, 0.3 behind Fabian Fitness. 5 minutes remaining in the session. Fabian Fitness is third, 0.3 behind Will Kirk. Andrew Ferguson is P4, 0.2 behind Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness is P3, 0.1 ahead of Andrew Ferguson. Andrew Ferguson is P4 on softs, 0.4 behind Fabian Fitness. Fabian Fitness on lap 27 is P3, 0.3 behind Will Kirk. Andrew Ferguson from Australia in turn 6 is P4, 0.3 behind Fabian Fitness. Will Kirk in the corkscrew is third, 0.1 behind Fabian Fitness. Will Kirk lost P3 to Andrew Ferguson. Will Kirk passed Andrew Ferguson for P3. Andrew Ferguson in turn 11 is third, 0.1 ahead of Will Kirk. Andrew Ferguson lost third to Will Kirk. Jason McFadden is P6 on softs, 0.2 behind Derek Weissler. Derek Weisler in turn 3 is P6. Andrew Ferguson in Rahal Straight on lap 28 is 4th, 1.0 behind Will Kirk. Luke Geeson entering the pits is 11th. Derek Weisler in Rainy Curve is 6th, 0.4 behind Jason McFadden. Jason McFadden on lap 29 is 6th. Andrew Ferguson is 4th, 0.8 behind Will Kirk. Jason McFadden in turn 6 is 6th, 0.4 behind Derek Weisler. Jason McFadden passed Derek Weisler for 5th. Derek Weisler on lap 29 is P6, 0.4 behind Jason McFadden. The leader has just finished the race. Lachlan Grant finished first. Fabian Fitness finished P2. Will Kirk finished 3rd. Andrew Ferguson finished 4th. Jason McFadden finished P5. Derek Weisler finished P6. Lee Crowther finished 7th. Tyler Magson finished 12th. Brody Barber finished 8th. Dean Hanley finished 9th. Jeff Drum finished 13th. Hayden Cook finished 10th. Richard King finished P14. Bill Cosmo finished P11. Mark C finished 15. Luke Geeson is 16th. Geeson finished P16.